Would like a motion to come out of executive session?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we are out of executive session. There is no action to be taken from that executive session. We're going to go to our public hearing tonight, but we're going to take a 5-minute break from here, and then we'll start our public hearings. Thank you. Van, you gonna do a quick summary?
Yeah, just real quickly, purpose, the coastal resiliency overlay zone is established to provide for the general health, safety, and welfare by requiring notification at all real estate closings of the vulnerability of low-lying property. Is this on?
Yeah.
Low-lying property to sea level rise and coastal flooding. This provision is specifically designed to assist individuals in making decisions that involve investments that will last at least 30 years in light of projected coastal flooding conditions at that time frame. Attached to this is obviously kind of a draft of what that disclosure form would look like, and it identifies district boundaries for that coastal resilience overlay zone, which is defined as all lands located at an elevation of 10 feet above sea level or less. So that's just a quick summary.
Very good, and I'll open it up for public comment. It's like, nobody's been to dais in so long.
It is an honor to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you all for the opportunity to comment in person on behalf of the Coastal Conservation League. My name is Jessie White, and I'm the director of our Beaufort office. On behalf of our over 3,000 members, we are urging you to adopt the Coastal Resilience Overlay, which is a responsible and proactive measure intended to protect and prepare for how we live and develop and grow in the floodplain. The Resilience Overlay arose from the Ladies Island Plan, which the town adopted in 2019. And shortly after the plan was adopted, county planning staff wisely recognized that this policy would address an issue we're seeing countywide, and therefore formed a task force made up of a diverse range of stakeholders, including representatives from each of the municipalities, science researchers, educators, the development community, and the conservation community, in order to develop this and other measures to improve resilience in Beaufort County. Port Royal's low country landscape and extensive waterways are some of the features that make this area so desirable to live, to work, and to visit. But those same features also make it vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. The Resilience Overlay is a responsible tool to help manage the reality of the resilience issues we face before us, helping to ensure people and property are kept out of harm's way while also protecting and retaining the healthy functioning of our natural systems. Using the new FEMA base flood elevation for the 100-year floodplain of 10 feet or less above sea level, the Resilience Overlay would require a disclosure in property transactions if that property is in the floodplain and therefore expected to experience increased risks of future flooding by storm events and rising sea levels over the next 30 years. This improves transparency during the home buying process and educates property owners about future flooding risks. It also fills a problematic gap not currently addressed by existing policies because it addresses future flooding associated with a variety of causes, from climate change, from sunny day flooding, flooding as a result of land-based storms, and increased and more intense hurricane and tropical storm associated flooding. Existing disclosures are based on insurance policy or lender requirements as well as past events, and do not relay in straightforward language the reality of future flooding risks based on climate change and the fact that the low-lying nature of property in the floodplain heightens exposure to those risks. As the last year has proven, we are experiencing an additional type of flooding in the form of newcomers to our area, many of whom are unfamiliar with the realities of living in the floodplain. It is the right and responsible thing to do as community leaders to arm them with all relevant information in the process so that they are best equipped to protect their families and investments, whether that be building in a more resilient way or bolstering against flooding risks. It's clear that this is a desirable place to live, and people will continue to move and want to live here, particularly in our lowest lying areas because of their proximity to the water and the beauty that these landscapes offer. The Resilience Overlay will not change that, but it will ensure that those decisions are made based on all relevant information, including future flood risks, and in doing so will improve the resilience of our community as a whole. Scientific studies have repeatedly shown that the floodplain will experience more frequent and intense flooding as we approach the end of the century. In fact, in this past year, Beaufort County was ranked #1 in the United States at highest risk of climate change related impacts in a published report by ProPublica. The The urgency of taking action now to protect our people, places, and environment cannot be overstated. Adopting the resilience overlay is just one step in that right direction. And briefly, we also wanted to reiterate the importance of council adopting the fill standards in the near future, which also arose from the Ladies Island Plan and would limit the use of fill dirt to fill in our lowest lying areas in order to build on them. Development pressures and climate change impacts are two of the most pressing issues facing our community, so we have to be very thoughtful moving forward about how and where we develop. We know that fill and build practices have detrimental impacts because they alter the land's natural capacity to handle stormwater and they exacerbate flooding. By continuing to allow an over-reliance on this type of development, we're not making ourselves more adaptable and resistant to the impacts of climate change like we should be, but rather placing people and property directly at risk and in harm's way. So we urge the town of Port Royal to embrace a proactive approach, promoting public safety, health, and general welfare by adopting the resilience overlay and the fill standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, and I'm pretty glad to be here in person, too. As you know, Dean and I sent out comments last month, but now that we can actually be in the same room, I thought I'd come on down. And again, I want
Just for the
to-
record, state your name.
Yeah, Wendy Zara, I live on 14th Street,
We got to get used to this new way of doing things again.
the new old way. I want to urge you also to pass the, I never can say this, coastal resiliency overlay. It's really the responsible thing to do. Everybody knows that we've got sea level rise and that climate change is affecting us. And it's really, I can't see that it's a hardship at all to expect somebody to sign a piece of paper at closing and get it recorded. It's only fair to let people buying property to know what risks might be on it. It's not really that different from the ACU's ordinance disclosure requirement. So I'm hoping that you will really continue to be leaders in helping us take measures to protect against sea level rise. And I'm also really hoping that when the fill ordinance comes around that you will be taking leadership on that too. So thank you very much for your consideration, and I'm looking forward to you voting yes.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Hearing none. We, all of council has received some emails. We received a,
Van's trying to get you.
who?
Van.
No, you just referenced, I have two letters here, one
He
that's
was
asked to be read
translating.
into the
Okay,
record.
sorry. Yeah, we have two different emails, one supporting and one opposing. They've asked for the letter to be read into the record. Van, if you want to do that, there's actually two letters in that email, am I correct? And both of the letters are addressed to Beaufort County, not the town of Port Royal. So I'm not sure why reading them into the record makes sense here.
Well, the one I have,
Do you have a different one than I have?
yeah, I have one that was sent today at 3:30, and it is directed to Mayor DeVito and members of town council.
Okay, then please read that one. I may not have that one.
Yeah, then I have a second one. I'll go with the first one from, this is from Janet Gresham, who is the, with the Beaufort Jasper County Realtors, Low Country Regional Multiple Listing Service, Inc. Dear Mayor DeVito, members of town council and staff, I am again writing you, this is going to be quite a letter, so it might take me a little while.
Is this,
I am again writing to you on behalf of the 1,800-plus realtors and affiliate members of the Hilton Head Area Realtors and the Beaufort Jasper County Realtors. I previously sent you letters and documentation supporting our position against both the fill ordinance and the coastal resiliency overlay ordinance, and on May 14th, I sent you a copy of a 3-page letter sent by our associations to the Natural Resources Committee and the County Council, wherein we expressed our concerns with both of these proposed ordinances. Since the Town Council elected to postpone discussion on the fill ordinance, I will only address the CRO ordinance today. Below are some of the issues regarding the CRO ordinance, which were set forth in our letter to the NRC and County Council dated April 19, 2021. The associations are concerned that the disclosure requirements of the CRO ordinance are unnecessary and redundant to existing standard practice real estate disclosures. The CRO ordinance may be susceptible to claims that its disclosure requirements are preempted by the South Carolina Residential Property Condition Disclosure Act. Because South Carolina has a state statute that addresses disclosure requirements in residential property transactions, there might be challenges to the disclosure requirements of the CRO ordinance on the grounds of preemption. In particular, the South Carolina Residential Property Condition Disclosures Act, the SC Disclosure Act, appears to require an owner selling real property to disclose certain information in a written disclosure statement provided to the purchaser of the property. In addition, pursuant to the SC Disclosure Act, the South Carolina Real Estate Commission has created the South Carolina Residential Property Condition Disclosure Statement, which requires the seller of residential property to answer yes, no, or no representation to each item in a list of required disclosures established by Section 27-50-40 of the SC Disclosure Act. These required disclosures topics include flood hazards, wetlands, or flood hazard designations, flood insurance and erosion or erosion control affecting the property. I've also attached a copy of this disclosure for your reference and information. Furthermore, requiring that the CRO disclosure form be provided at closing would not further the ordinance's stated purpose of assisting individuals in making decisions that involve investments that will last at least 30 years in light of projected coastal flooding conditions in that time frame. If the intent of the CRO ordinance is to address the inadequacy of current disclosure requirements for timely evaluation of sea level rise and coastal flooding risk in a real estate transaction, requiring that the CRO district disclosure be delivered at closing does not give a prospective buyer an opportunity to adequately evaluate those risks. By the time a real estate transaction reaches a closing, the parties have already negotiated the purchase price and presumably are contractually obligated through a purchase and sale agreement to proceed with the transaction but for certain contingencies. The buyer has also presumably already purchased insurance that will become effective upon closing. The disclosure might educate a buyer about potential flooding risks, but only at a point in the transaction where the buyer may have little or no practical recourse. By contrast, the SC Disclosure Act requires that the seller provide a written disclosure before a real estate contract is signed by the purchaser and owner, unless the real estate contract stated otherwise. By requiring that the required disclosures be made before entering a real estate contract, the SC Disclosure Act gives buyers ample time to make an informed purchase decision. The CRO ordinance, by contrast, requires that the disclosure be given too late and to serve its intended purpose. Section 3.4.90C1 of the CRO ordinance states that the buyer, seller, and witness must all sign the CRO disclosure form. However, the CRO ordinance is unclear with regard to whether the property owner or the listing agent is responsible for ensuring that the CRO disclosure is properly signed and recorded. By contrast, the SC Disclosure Act expressly requires that the listing agent or any real estate licensee inform in writing the property owner of their obligation to provide a prospective purchaser with a disclosure statement. It also states that once the listing agent performs this duty, he or she cannot be held liable for the owner's failure to deliver the disclosure statement. Does the county intend to provide property owners with an accurate, reliable, and accessible means of determining whether the elevation of the property places it within the CRO district? The CRO ordinance establishes a CRO district that encompasses all properties at an elevation of 10 feet or less and imposes disclosure obligations on that basis. The fill ordinance also applies only to land with an elevation of 10 feet or less. Each of those ordinances specifies the relevant standard for determining whether a property is at an elevation 10 feet or less is the North American Vertical Datum of 1988. It is unclear whether the county intends to make available to property owners an accessible and reliable source of information regarding exact elevation of a property based on North American Vertical Datum of 1988. While the county apparently does have a public GIS mapping site, it does not appear to include either a base map or layer that contains the North American Vertical Datum of 1988 data. The county's GIS mapping tool does include an elevation map, but appears to depict 2013 digital elevation data, not the North American Vertical Datum of 1988, standard used by the CRO ordinance and fill ordinance. The elevation map uses a gradient color scale to depict elevation ranging from approximately 50 feet above sea level to a low of 7 feet below sea level. This type of mapping would not be precise or detailed enough for use in determining with certainty whether a particular property is in the CRO district. In contrast, for example, firms clearly delineate flood hazards associated with the property and are at scale that makes it possible to see whether and to what extent a particular property falls within a flood hazard area, enabling parties to a real estate transaction to determine whether flood insurance is required. Does the county intend to map the proposed CRO district, and if not, how does it expect owners to determine whether their property is located within the CRO district and therefore is subject to the CRO ordinance and the fill ordinance? Without an accurate, detailed, and reliable source of elevation data, property owners would be forced to incur the cost of a professional survey or elevation certificate To determine whether the CRA ordinance applies. This could add additional costs and complication to property transaction and might discourage some residential rental property owners from entering into written leases with their tenants. In closing, in addition to the above issues, we believe that there are many other things that should be considered before passing such an ordinance, and here are just a few. How many property owners will be impacted by such an ordinance? Will this impact negatively on real property values, and if so, what effect would that have on tax revenues? Exactly how much land is located within the CRO district? Will property owners in the CRO district be notified by the county and/or town that their property has been determined to be in the CRO district, and what that will mean if they decide to sell it? Shouldn't property owners be made aware of this ordinance prior to its passage? Per Rob Merchant, neither Bluffton or Hilton Head are considering either the Thill ordinance or the CRO ordinance, and the City of Beaufort CRO ordinance does not require that the parties sign a disclosure. We respectfully ask that council take into consideration all the issues raised and table further action on the CRO ordinance, or at least postpone any further action until all issues and questions are addressed. Thank you for your time and consideration. Best regards, Shannon Grisham. All right, that's the first. Second, this is from Mr. John Thompson, who lives at 39 Isle of Hope, Mount Pleasant. Dear Mayor DeVito, please support proactive flooding protection for our community. The coastal resiliency overlay will require disclosure for all property transfers in the lowest lying areas at 10 feet above sea level or lower. The disclosure of safety and welfare of those most threatened by flooding in Port Royal. Please support it. Thank you for your leadership on this issue. Sincerely, Mr. John Thompson. All right. Those are the two.
There was another email that was sent to me that I forwarded to the rest of council from Elizabeth Bergman in support. Did you not get that one, man?
I did not. No.
Okay, then I will read it in the record as we've read the other ones. This does not in any way reflect my statements or opinion on this. I'm just going to read it in the record.
Did she ask to be read in record?
She did not, but neither did the one from Mount Pleasant, right?
No, I just,
Okay.
So whatever council has received it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
Council?
We all got it. She probably.
Very similar, it's in
It's
support.
very similar in statements than what we
She-
just heard.
She lives on Edinburgh.
Correct. So we've all received that, 1613 Edinburgh. Very good. All right, that's the last that I have on that. If there's nothing else, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing on 2021-11. Open public hearing on 2021-18, an ordinance amending Chapter 12, License of Business Regulations, Article 5, Short-Term Rental, Section 12-64, accommodation fee required for the Code of Ordinance for the town of Port Royal, South Carolina, creating a unique identifier for each short-term rental. We'll go ahead and open it up. Anybody in the room? Public comment? Hearing none. Have we received any public comment? Then I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment for 2021-18. I'm going to open public comment for 2021-19, an ordinance authorizing the town manager to convey excess real property to facilitate the construction of sidewalks within the town, described as Beaufort County Tax 110, Map 10, Parcel 144, approximately 80 feet on 14th Street. Any public comment? Hearing none. Anything come in?
Yes, sir.
Hearing none, we'll close public hearing on 20-21-19. We'll open the public comment on 20-21-20, an ordinance amending Chapter 19, Traffic and Motor Vehicle, Article 2, Stopping and Standing and Parking, Section 19-31, Control of Parking in Public Parking Areas or Private Parking Areas under the jurisdiction of the Police Department and the Code of Ordinance within the town of Port Royal, South Carolina. Weight and time limit on town right-of-ways. We'll open that up for public comment. Van, could you go do a summary on this one?
yeah, there were, obviously, the sections you see highlighted that are up on the screen are the two sections in particular that would be amended under the current code. The first is it is unlawful to park a motor vehicle with a gross vehicle weight of more than 7,500 pounds within the town right-of-way for more than 3 hours. I sent y'all a separate email with a suggested change in that language that would modify it from gross vehicle weight to curb weight. Within that email was an explanation of the difference between the two. The curb weight of your vehicle is the weight of the car with all of the standard equipment and amenities, but without any passengers, cargo, or any other separately loaded items in it. Thus, the curb weight is the amount of the vehicle weighs when it's resting on the curb and not in use. This is generally what the manufacturer assigns as a weight. The second was the gross vehicle weight, is basically when the thing is outfitted and you've got folks in there. So determining what the gross vehicle weight would be is a higher burden for town staff to address. The second amendment to the ordinance was something suggested by Councilman Ashmore if we were going to pursue this, and this reads: the provisions of this ordinance shall not apply to any properly licensed commercial vehicle while making normal deliveries, moving household goods, or being used to perform the special operation for which it's designed. That's to accommodate landscape companies or any other companies, utility trucks that are in the right-of-way performing their regular duties. And as you can see, the penalty for this is $25.
I think that's enlightening. Let's talk about that after we're at a public hearing. Good point. We should talk about that after we're at a public hearing.
Okay.
All right, do we have any public comment? None in the room. Do we have received any public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment on 20-21-20, and now the one I'll fumble on. We'll open public comment on ordinance 20-21-21, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinance for the Town of Port Royal, South Carolina, authorizing meetings to be held by telephonic or other electronic means and the matters related thereto. Electronic meetings. Ben, anything you think you need to summarize on this, or we're good? Considering we've been doing it for a year.
Basically, it's just giving y'all the option to attend remotely if necessary under, obviously we cannot set up standards that would apply, but this just gives y'all the ability to do that. There are a couple little cleanup things that that Brooke did in the ordinance. Some things we found where it said reference 7 o'clock, and we wanted to have it read 6:30. So just some Scrivener's errors, if you will, but the main issue is the ability to participate electronically.
Very good. Anybody have any public comment? Hearing none, nothing received, so we'll close 20-21-21. And we'll open public comment for ordinance 20-21-23. An ordinance to amend as follows: Section 1, year beginning July 1, 2021, and provided for the expenditures therefore. Approval of the 21-22 budget. Any public comment? Hearing none, and none being sent in, I will close the public comment for 20-21-23. And that ends the public comment section of tonight's event. And we will go right into our council workshop. So our first item of business is we have an introduction. We have our first real presenter. We have the introduction of the Port Royal Elementary School Principal, Ms. Vicki Good.
Hi, Mayor
Welcome.
DeVito and council members. Thank you very much for this opportunity to introduce myself. It's a little late in the year, but better late than never. When I heard you were having some folks address you in person, I thought this is as good a time as any to say hello and tell you about myself and the school. This is my first year as principal, and it was a great year to jump in and take a responsibility for the school. And as you know, it's been a challenging year for educators everywhere, and Port Royal Elementary was no exception. We learned a lot this school year, but one of the most important things that I learned is that my staff is dedicated and committed to the students and families of Port Royal. They really jumped in from the very beginning and found ways to connect with families and provide instruction, both virtually and in person, and I'm very proud of the work that they've done this year. I'm also incredibly proud of the students and the families who had to find new ways to do school. Many of them had to figure out, as young as 5, how to Zoom and upload assignments in Google platforms and Seesaw. And when they did return, they found that they couldn't sit knee to knee with their friends and play games and have close contact conversations. So we just had to find new ways to do those things. But they have persevered, and we're finishing strong. So I'm proud of all of them. This is the end of the year is nearing, and the last week of the school, I am excited to announce that we will be having our first family in-person events at the school. We have not had any in-person family events this school year. And so we will be having our pre-K and kinder ceremonies. They're moving up, and so we've invited families to join in that celebration. We've also invited our families of our fifth graders who are moving up to the middle school. We want to celebrate them as well. So we are going to come together on the basketball court that's on the playground so that we can be in open air and socially distanced, but still enjoy families coming to the school. So we were looking forward to that. I'm very excited to see our families in person. An opportunity for the town to help us is coming up this Saturday, June 5th at 10 o'clock. I've reached out to Kat Bray, who is a coordinator of the Village People, who does a litter patrol in the town to keep the town litter free, and they are allowing us to use their equipment to clean up our campus. So we're doing a campus cleanup to get ready for our ceremonies, to try to just pick up some things that are laying on our playground and get everything spruced up. So we're real excited to see everybody, and we invite the community to come in and help us with that. But I'll be honest with you, I'm looking forward to hitting the reset button and starting over this school year. I'm excited that we're going to be launching a STEM lab this year. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And I'm looking forward to inviting community members to come in and help us share their knowledge and real-world experiences and make connections with what our students are learning. So I invite the community and the town of Port Royal to come visit us in the fall and find ways to plug in. I see on your wall here that improving citizen engagement is one of your goals. So I would like to extend that as a goal for Port Royal Elementary as well, to find ways for communities and families to plug back into the school and really support our students. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I look forward to partnering with all of you in the future. So thank you.
And I know that there's a council member who wants to say how proud we are to have Port Royal Elementary in town. Who wants to be the one to talk?
Absolutely. There is this is a true community school where children walk to school and ride their bicycles to school. All of my children went to Port Royal Elementary all the way back to the days of Miss Keeler when she was the principal there. And it holds a special place in our heart. And I know there was a time where we would have the chorus come in here and sing and some presentations.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to that happening again. We appreciate you being here tonight. How is our SRO officer doing?
He's doing a great job keeping us safe, looking out for us every day. So we
Good.
really enjoy having him. It really lends a calmness to the school that we know that we're safe and secure, and he can respond to anything if it were to happen. So, and we have been celebrating milestones of doing things that we didn't do before. Our kids have been walking down to the wetlands. They were able to visit. It was outside day for outside for our kindergartners, and they went outside and visited the wetlands again. Our expressions choir is going to sing at one of the residents' homes this week coming. Will be the first time they've been able to do that, but they've been having some parking lot kind of presentation. So we're trying to get back in the swing of things, but only 10 days left. We'll get just a little bit accomplished before the end. And like I said, I'm just looking forward to hitting that reset button, starting fresh next year, and inviting folks to come in and see us.
What's the total enrollment there now?
The enrollment's down a little bit from last year. We're only at a 170. We were at 225 at the end of last school year. That had to do with the pandemic.
Sure.
I think families had to go to other places to lean on their families for support, and there were some that went to other schools because we didn't start until September, so that was a little bit. So I've invited all of those families to come back through School of Choice, and we're hoping to gain some of those back and just grow. So we're really excited about that.
Thank you for being here.
Like Derry said, my children also went through there back in the K. Kaler days, and Mr. Good and Mr. Diorio, and just recently I found a book that the school had done a writing thing back in the day, and my son actually wrote a story. You guys bound it, put it in a book, and he had given it to my mother, his grandmother, and I found it
Wow.
recently, and it was pretty, sent it to Mr. Good, a little picture of him, and reminded him of the days that what was happening there. We definitely want to get the choir on the calendar now for the Christmas tree lighting. We've missed it.
Absolutely.
We've got to get that date locked in. We need it there. We want those kids at our Christmas tree lighting. We weren't able to do that last year, and we want to make certain that happens again.
Well, I look forward to seeing y'all, and I look
Yeah.
forward to you seeing us, so
Yeah,
we
we look
appreciate
forward
that.
to it.
I'm very excited that you're getting back and doing the things. I personally went to school there as a Port Royal person.
That was in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
I started in the 4th grade, thank you,
Oh, boy.
and went through until I went on to junior and high. But, so it's really important to me.
It is.
And it's nice to see the growth and to see the kids back in our walk-in community and, you know, just being able to see them go to school and do. And, you know, at one point, we did reading for the kids. We would go and, you know, help with those kind of things and hoping to get some of that back to the school.
Yeah, the partnerships have been very strong in the past, I know that, and I'm looking forward to just strengthening that again.
Jerry, I don't know if you.
Thank you for all you do. I did not attend Port Royal Elementary, however, my daughter did.
Well, thank you all very much, I
Thank you for all you
appreciate
do.
it.
But you said 170 right now?
170, yes.
My kids went there, it was 90.
No pressure.
Really?
And that was in the that was early 90s. So,
Okay.
give you an idea of
Well,
the
it's been
growth
up
that's
over
happening.
300
We're
before.
our projection, if we were doing what we needed to do, between 225 and 250.
That'd be great.
So,
That's
you know, we're gonna try, I'm hoping we're gonna hit a lot closer to that at the beginning in the fall, and, you know, continue to grow. I know there's a lot of growth in Port Royal that's happening, y'all are talking about all of that now, so we're looking forward to great things.
Very good.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
If you need anything from us, please let us know. We're easy to get a hold of.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Pleasure to see you.
Van, next item, your council briefing.
Yeah, well, we'll start with stormwater. First thing is Cypress Wetlands. I included in your folders an email from our service provider, Solitude, that handles the invasives. We did a recent spraying, addressing some of the stuff on the islands and some more of the strife that was kind of throughout. Kind of secondary to that is the Stormwater Utility Board is planning on holding a meeting at the Cypress Wetlands.
Oh, wow.
They are very interested in what we're doing and how we're handling stormwater. I do have folk land management teed up to help participate in kind of educating them on that process.
Do you have
There'll be a
a date and time
regular
for that?
agenda.
Your date and time for
It's
that?
typically the second Wednesday of each month, or at 2 p.m., but I'm going to confirm that.
Okay.
Because it is kind of a off-site meeting, so let me make sure I get those dates to y'all.
Okay.
So we're pretty excited about that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Very
You
good.
know, I don't know if, you know, the work that the Friends Group is doing is tremendous, and I think we're seeing a significant uptick in the number of visitors to the wetlands. And Jeff recently did some repair work to some of the amphitheater, but we've got some additional repairs we needed.
How we doing on the overflow structure? Are we close to being able to?
We're
do that?
waiting for I think they wanted to wait until all the bird birth thing happened, and before we didn't want to disrupt them by bringing that structure in, so I think we can get it scheduled now.
If we do have the stormwater utility out there, maybe we can do a little flyover with a drone and capture some images of that to highlight how it's become an interest of everybody. So I think let's use that where we can.
And obviously, the number of complaints about drainage have dropped drastically in the last 3 or 4 weeks due to lack of rain, so I would prefer the complaints because we certainly need some water right now.
Not right now.
Yep.
Wait till next week.
There you go. Sands Beach, I know that was something we discussed previously was a ownership of the boat landing. I think we're looking into the background information that the county had put together. I haven't received it yet. I know
I'm not-
I know you requested it,
I'll follow up.
but we have not received it. As to maintenance, there was some discussion. We talked about the holes last week. We can't really do much about that. But what we can do, and Jeff was ahead of me a little bit on this one, he did have somebody scheduled, I think, to come yesterday to give an estimate on getting it completely, really thoroughly swept so that we could get it. We had talked about restriping, but the mayor suggested we'd look into an estimate for shallows. And so I think we're going to look at what the cost of that may be as well.
So when they push that sand, is there any way we can remove it? Because last time, in my opinion, we pushed it and it just kind of piled up right there. And then before too long, it kind of blew back in.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could just push it and maybe just get a skid steer or something, come in there and scoop it out and
Yeah.
remove it.
Well, and I think that's part of the estimate that Jeff has. That's why we
Okay.
went a little bit different direction on who we're gonna use to handle that. So.
And Joe, Van, you might want to explain what sharrows are.
That's fine.
I did have an image. Well, hopefully, it basically, you know what? You're the expert. I'll let you explain it.
Okay, so a sharrow is, as it sounds, it is a share the road arrow. That's where that term comes from.
Inverted V or something?
It's a three insignias like a sergeant stripes, then with a bicycle below that. So it designates that this lane of car traffic is to be shared with bicycles in that way. So the thought is, I mean, as we know that the port redevelopment's gonna happen and what's gonna there, bicycles were never designed to go down and go over the boardwalk. They were always at some point gonna leave that development and get out on the roads, but zero is Sands Beach, is the beginning of the boardwalk, so we wanna direct them to that area. There we go, we got one up there right now. So Sharrows is recognized by South Carolina DOT. South Carolina DOT does not own that road, we own that road. But it is the recognized insignia to say, a bicycle belongs here, cars share the road. Allow that bicycle to be here. So that then leaves the edge of the road for walkers. So the bicycles kind of come out a little bit, they're riding down the lane, the cars wait for them, and the walkers have the edge of the road in that way, in that scenario. It's ultimately where we're gonna end up, because when the bike trail leaves the Spanish Moss Trail, will have these sharrows through the city to get you to that, through the town, to get you to back down to marker zero. So if we're gonna spend some money on paint, let's look at this now and start the process, and then we slowly back them on up all the way to wherever the trail decides to exit in that way. They're if you go to Greenville, you'll see them all over Greenville. They're used, and they're in DOT roads, they're in Greenville roads, they're in other roads. See them a lot down south, down in Florida, they're all over those roads. And it just indicates bicycle, you're okay to be here, cars, look out for bicycles. So that's the idea of it. And just we'll look at it, see what it costs, see what it's all
Sure.
about.
It looks like it's just paint. I mean, it's.
It's just paint, it's sticker and a paint, a sticker
Right.
or a paint, you know, so anybody who paints roads has probably done sharrows in some fashion. So figure, why do it twice? Let's see what we can do now.
Thank you.
Nope, no problem.
The next item is that, that remaining townhouse lot. I think we've had some discussions. We'll probably need to schedule an executive session, maybe to go a little bit deeper into that particular issue, so, but please give that some thought. CDBGs, we are coordinating, I'll start with the Paris Avenue Streetscape Project. We are coordinating now with our engineering firm in Dominion. You know, part of that original scope was to address street lights, and because of the contract we signed with Dominion, we are replacing a lot of them, so I think we may be able to reallocate some of the funding that was set aside for streetlights to maybe some more of what we're potentially anticipate doing along Paris Avenue. I did have a meeting with Michael last week, and we talked about kind of a plan to address Paris Avenue. He's got some concerns because of how wide it is, and maybe some additional things we can do. He's going to take a look at that tool study and see if there's the things that can work in. Obviously, the speed table will be included in that also. Royal Palms Gravity Sewer, the survey crews have started, so they are out and about. So that work has begun, and everything is kind of progressing as we anticipate. I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later when I talk about the American Recovery Act, but one of the...
Well, hold on, before you go.
Yeah.
You leaving Paris Avenue, or is this gonna be part
I
of it?
was moving on to the Royal Palms. We can go back to Paris.
I think, we talk about the width of it and are concerned about that, and make sure, I think we should all be thinking, I know that we've had conversations of, if narrowing is an option, I'm not so sure center medians is the way to do that. I'd love to do wider sidewalks. I'd love to make it more friendly to walk, maybe a business to have a place to sit out and have a little curbside seating. So when you talk to Michael about that, if it makes sense, bring it forward, let us look at it. But I think making it a wide walking, you come down towards this end and you get that really wide section in here that's nice to walk on in that area. So if that's one of the options or something we can do, I think it should be considered in that way, because we want people to feel like they can walk up and down Paris Avenue whenever they want and be comfortable in that way and slow the traffic. So in some ways, I think instead of reducing it with center medians, which I know makes difficult for fire and police to be able to get around, maybe we can do that by narrowing it, by giving more pedestrian.
Yeah, because I think one of
Approach.
the other challenges he sees is the way that road is crowned. and the changes in elevation between, so maybe the wider sidewalks give an opportunity to kind of soften that grade change
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the.
Just something to
where the
think
road
about. I
peaks.
think something to think about.
Yeah.
We want to turn it into the walking community, it always was. Make it a little
Right.
safer.
And so, obviously Royal Palms, sewer has been a priority. You see it up on all of our boards. It comes up. And I'm going to cover it a little bit. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit, so I'll keep moving on and we'll cover it more extensively. Spanish Moss Trail, you all passed the resolution last month. I drafted a letter supporting the resolution. We are waiting on an engineered drawing. I think that'll be ready around June 4th that we can include with that letter. And basically, we're addressing it to SCDOT officials and some of our legislative delegation and other local officials, letting them know that obviously we are committed via at least a resolution to that crossing occurring at the former rail bed and where the trail currently runs perpendicular to Rebo Road, getting it across over to what we call the Spine Road. Shrimp facility, obviously y'all took action on that last month. I had a meeting with Mr. Morris to discuss winding down processing. Obviously it's shrimp season, so we're moving product until June 30. But we've begun the process of clean up and clean out. There's a lot of stuff that's not really ours that was in those buildings, so we'll get out what is ours. I did give y'all an inventory. We still do have some out-of-town boats that do come in and offload. That's what we're seeing right now. And we have offloaded the swordfish boats. And so those are, they have reached out to me, as I've indicated before. We're not closing the dock. We'll receive rental income from the boats that are there. It's just that the operators of those boats will be responsible for handling the process of getting their load off the boat and to their buyers.
How are they receiving that information?
They ask the obvious questions about, ice and fuel, and we said those are logistics that have to be addressed by all. Interestingly, the ice machine is rather large, and it's basically a tractor trailer. So we talked about relocating it, and there were some suggestions made, and those, about maybe moving to Public Works, and there was some concern about that. I would say that it's not the shrimpers and fishers that are only one using that ice on a fairly regular basis. Community Beer Garden uses it every week. So we need to figure out if there's a way for us to work with the people that are currently using the ice. Maybe they have an interest in working with us and co-locating it in a good location for everybody that actually uses it. So,
Okay.
there are maybe some opportunities out there.
And we've notified the property owner that we'll be ending the lease as well?
Yes,
in the
yeah,
building?
they're very aware of it coming to an end.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Baynard Cove, just wanted to keep it out there. There's no activity on site right now. I circle it every once a week to see if there's dirt being pushed around. There's nothing going on. Traffic and road projects. I gave y'all some feedback I got from the police department on some additional speed bumps as well as some four-way stops. Obviously Madrid and London seem to be some pretty major corridors for traffic. Obviously Sands and then going down to Fish Camp on the other side of town. There's some very practical locations, in my opinion, for some additional four-ways that may mitigate the need for some of the speed humps. I do think you'd probably still need some sort of bump down near the end of Madrid where it interfaces with West Paris Avenue. That speed coming off of that's pretty big, and it's a pretty good run to your first four-way. And I'm recommending a four-way stop between the first one, which is at 16th, and the next one, which is 11th, somewhere in between those two. London Avenue, I think we're due for another one on that side that would about a 2 to 3 street separation, probably in the neighborhood or near where Port Royal Elementary is now. We're talking about the installation of a sidewalk on both sides of Port Royal Elementary, so that might be a good spot, particularly if we're anticipating crossing there because of the sidewalks. Probably a good thing to do. Because the next one is up, obviously, at 14th. So keeping that whole block under some sort of stop sign control is probably good.
Before you go to Porter's Chapel, I did hear a complaint or an issue, a situation that arose on Sands Beach Road where it turns into 6th. We've got the stop sign there. Somebody was coming out of Sands Beach and thought that going into 6th was the straight, and somebody was coming down Sam's Beach, and it was an almost hit. I think that really, it's a terrible skewed intersection. I think it just needs to be an all-way, three-way stop there as well. I'll let you look at that with staff and make a decision, but it just does seem weird when you're coming out. Am I going straight if I go on the Sixth, or am I going straight if I stay on Sam's Beach Road? Because it is such an unusual, and it's already in a turn. So take a look at that, see what you think about that one.
Yeah, that's-
Obviously, we all know we're trying to slow as many people down on Sam's Beach Road as possible.
Yeah,
So
we have
it's-
posted it as 15 now, too.
Yeah, it's posted as 15, and another stop sign might not be a bad decision in that way. To do that, but I did hear of a close call with a truck,
With a semi-truck.
semi-truck. I don't know what a semi-truck was doing down at the beer garden, but he, at least he went that way, but that was what was happening.
Porter's Chapel, I think it's time to maybe pick a opening date. The
Council, good with,
USCB has basically concluded that class. They provided me with some of the work that they put together for displays. You know, I've worked out an agreement with the National Park Service, so they have a ranger in there, so we're keeping it open. It's more or less serving as kind of a visitor center. I think they see it's significant, and I've talked to y'all about this before. Number of tours related to when they're out there on Saturdays at the farmer's market. The sign is ready. I don't want to hang it and unveil it until we're ready to do that. I think we need to think about who we want there.
share some thoughts and date ideas,
Yes.
and we'll get that locked in.
Right.
So are we thinking like sooner than later?
We would, if we want to do this properly, I think we need to ensure that we have the guests that we want. We probably need to, maybe a little later.
Yeah, I know Chip Campson's very much,
contact
the
family
would like to know, contact the
Right.
family. Chip Campson very much wants to be involved with that, so you may want
Yes.
to reach out to him
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a way to get a hold of the right people.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I think it's real good.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, local option sales tax, obviously, it's going to be on the ballot. I think there's an educational campaign that's probably being put together. You know, obviously, as a council, we cannot advocate for or against it publicly. So we'll see who's going to be spearheading that educational campaign. But obviously, we've had pretty extensive discussions about what it actually does. Smilex and Ron Road, the survey work is nearing an end. It's supposed to be done by Friday. Quick claim deed will accompany that survey that's being put together. The concerns that we had relative to guaranteed access, egress, ingress for the adjacent property owners has been assured to us, will be included, as well as utility easements that are currently in that stretch of the road, as well as potentially any additional utilities that may need to be run. There are a couple of vacant properties that are back there, one being owned by 303 Associates, but there's also, I believe, one owned by, I don't know if Mr. Ron has sold it or is selling it, but it also may potentially need utilities. So those are the concerns we had, and this will give us an opportunity to maybe clean up something that's been no man's land for forever. So, all right, the employment thing, read that when you get a chance. I'll probably introduce Noah next week. He is Noah Krebs, who will be replacing Linda. Well, can't really replace Linda, but you know what I mean. So we look forward to that. He's going to have his hands full right off the bat. I know we discussed, I've included in your packets the short-term rental presentation, so please take a look at that. It covers all the slides, it gives you everything that the software does, and obviously it is a natural extension of what we're attempting to do with the unique identifier, as well as what we're attempting to do by participating in the class action lawsuit. So I think it's worth pursuing.
Is the dollar value of a limit that you need our approval to?
No.
Okay, then and you've chosen one that you would like to
Yeah,
use?
I've talked to several of the vendors. This is probably the most comprehensive that I've
Is
looked
there
at.
any way that they can do a presentation for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've read through the software, I sold software, I understand it, but I
Yeah.
think it would be good for the council. I think it would be good for the citizens to see exactly what it is that we're purchasing
Okay.
and how it would work. So I think what you've chosen is good, it looked good to me, but I would really like to see a
Yeah.
presentation. That way it can be maybe at workshop next month, because you're gonna purchase after July 1, right?
Yeah.
You gotta do new budget year, so we've got a little bit of time on that. So let's just fit that in and really understand how the staff will be able to understand what's happening, how it puts those two pieces together and how they'll work. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, next street music, working, Brooke has been talking with our liaison who handles a lot of the artists, and we're getting this scheduled. Everybody keeps asking us when they're gonna crank up again. We tell them it's August, so they're pretty excited. Waste management, I had a discussion with the consultant that's been hired by the county to talk about the short and long-term goals or plans for waste management in Beaufort County. We all know that, landfills have lifespans, so they've got to start thinking about those things. And we talked a little bit about our existing contract, how many houses we handle, opportunities potentially if the county decides to go to curbside, are there opportunities for us to partner with them to kind of, get an economy of scale there to maybe drive down some prices. I gave them my thoughts. We had this discussion when we created the Northern Regional Plan about municipal level service versus county level services and whether, them doing curbside is necessarily in conflict to those things that we talked about all those years ago. I did bring up the fact, something we've also discussed, about the impact of the closing of the convenience centers and the amount of illegal dumping we're seeing. One thing I did find fascinating is that they did say that the tonnage that we deliver to the landfill that's classified as, yard debris is significantly higher than the city of Beaufort's. One of the things they attributed to potentially was that a number of private companies that are dumping their yard debris along our roads or servicing homes in our town and not carrying off the waste. I mean, we've seen small operators do that. They come in, they work on the weekend, they leave all the stuff out. However, we handle our own yard debris as well. The city of Beaufort is under contract with Waste Pro to handle that. So I think that kind of contributes to that widened gap between the tonnage. But that's something that we'll, I discussed, at one point we talked about a partnership with LCR when they had the site in town, but that just didn't work out as we anticipated. So I think this is going to be an ongoing discussion. They moved away from the impact fee, and y'all saw the presentation where they're designating a certain amount of millage that is currently being used, or dollar amount that's the same as what was being set aside for waste management, put into an enterprise fund. And, we are all county property taxpayers, so we'll figure out that all works.
Can you reach out to the city of Beaufort and find out when their contract's up, when ours is up, and see if there isn't a way that maybe it's time to bring those two together and do a single RFP for curbside together? I mean, I don't know that it makes sense, but maybe it does.
Is y'all's going up now? I was thinking yours is up now.
Yeah, theirs up. We're next year. I think we kind of split ways a few years back. I can't recall the specific reason. This may have been the tail end of the Dadson era. And, we were going in different directions with yard debris and some other stuff, so.
I'll let, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll let you and the city manager work that out, but at least let's have the conversation on a joint contract. If it's no good, it's no good. We like the way our trash is picked up when it's picked up.
Yeah, when it gets picked up.
They've been doing a good job lately.
Yeah, they have.
I ain't gonna complain.
I think since they made their change and moved, picket fences and shadow moss to its own day, it's been much better. It's been much better.
All right, the next is the ARPA, American Recovery Act. I've been participating in the task force meetings, discussing, not only this, but the several pots of federal monies that are being designated for infrastructure and other projects. I think I may have given y'all the list. If I didn't, I will. I think I read it this morning. It gives a summarization of what has been submitted to the feds. We submitted something to Representative Mace's office, and we're going to do a follow-up with Senator Graham's. Apparently, Senator Scott is not interested in any of the earmark or project designations, so that's, anyways. But right now, the two significant projects that we have that are included, are the new shrimp dock and processing facility, about $3.7 million, and then the Spine Road at $5 to $6 million. We are included in those lists. Ultimately, I don't know that all of them get funded. They may identify X number of projects on these lists. I brought up the point today that, the task force should, if that is the case, develop the priorities in terms of the projects. I didn't think that any one or two individuals at the county level or any other level should be making decisions for the entire group. I think all of that needs to be weighed out, particularly if they attach a dollar amount to what they think they can get appropriated for the area. So that was accepted. I think the group decided, yeah, that's a great idea. If you do see your counterparts at functions, just remind them we'd like to participate, and if there are priorities developed for those projects. As far as the American Recovery Act, the three priorities in terms of how that money can be spent. I gave you all a link to MASC and some of the parameters that have been established. But what it boils down to is revenue replacement, addressing employees that performed, essential employees that performed, and how that's going to be handled. And the third is really water and sewer. So, we, for the past 10 years, have, tried as best we could through CDBGs to address sewer holes in the town. They still exist, despite the fact that we've got another one that's going in. So, because it's well over $6 million that will be designated to the town through this, I think we have an opportunity to leverage some of those dollars to maybe address sewer problems. We also may have the money set aside because in the TIF, which we all know is underperforming, the Mayor and I discussed this today, there are dollars in the TIF that are set aside for water and sewer. So this certainly fits that profile. So I think we need to, in my opinion, Beaufort Jasper could be availed of a significant amount of money across a number of entities. The other one's broadband. Broadband is a priority as well. So, we're going to have to make some decisions. I got Chris, studying it and what we're going to do. And I will say that as far as the employees go, all of the entities involved want to be as consistent as we can be across the board in terms of how we're handling that. Ultimately, that's y'all's decision. But I do know that it was brought up and said, we don't want one town to be doing 4 times what another one is, because then it might become a recruiting tool. And we don't need that. We have enough of that as it is. I will keep you posted. There'll be minutes that come out for the meeting today, which I'll forward to you so you can take a read.
Real quick, so any money from the American Recovery Act flows from the federal government to the state and to the county?
No, I think we actually will get, there's entitlement and non-entitlement communities. Okay. We're considered a non-entitlement. Mm-hmm. But it's supposed to, I think it flows directly from the state to us.
So it's from the state
State
to us.
through LOCOG,
And it
through LOCOG
cannot-
through us.
What's that?
Through
LOCOG.
LOCOG through to
Right.
us.
Yes.
And it cannot be used for property tax release,
Correct.
period. That was made very clear.
But there is some advantages to the water and sewer.
Okay. I was just saying, so it's not, doesn't go to the county's not getting
Right.
all that and then gets to.
No.
They're gonna
No,
try.
they can't keep it from us.
No, and I think the water and sewer is an interesting, especially the sewer side, because if we use this money to do sewer, and we get some capacity credits that we could then use to help some other smaller businesses and stuff that need to come to town that have to do sewer, we could then use those credits to do that. So we get a double vote. We get to deal with the sewer issues we wanted to deal with now, and we don't have that handcuff on us that's been, we're looking for low to moderate income. We can go outside the LMIs and deal with it. We had to stop certain projects because that's as far as LMIs went, but we have depth to keep going. Now we can use some of this money to keep going and not having the LMI constraints. And we also get capacity credits that we could use later to entice some businesses or some business into town. So we may get to use that money twice in some ways if we pay attention to how we do that. And Van's gonna sit down and talk with the water authority on that aspect. I think I explained the way we talk. Well, good.
Yep. Next item is impact fees. I gave y'all the list, the tentative list for both traffic, road, and recreation. And they've designated, in terms of just the recreation, regional parks and neighborhood parks and those sorts of things. And we've got a number of projects on the road and traffic list that a number of intersection improvements. Spine Road again is once once located there. And then we're kind of a part of that, they call it the Buford Billion, but it has to do with the, Rebo Road improvements from one end to the other. And so there's a lot of work to be done there that's included. And so we're pretty fairly representative. If you consider it, as opposed to the previous or the current impact fee project list, we basically had one project on that impact fee list. So this is an improvement. It's yet to be seen. One, we have to sign the IGA, which we're waiting on, and two, what that fee is going to be based upon this list. So that'll be interesting. Recreation, obviously skateboard park is included. They've got some money in there for Bruce Edgerly. One of the regional parks pieces is considered is the Spanish Moss Trail that extends into Port Royal. So we do have some regional recognition there. Skateboard Park was not deemed a regional park. I would argue that probably could be. But however, there are funds set aside.
I do want to question that again, because I
Yeah.
thought we had resolved that issue.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see it as it moved down to a community park. But I thought we had resolved that issue, and I'm not done with that one yet. I read that today.
So,
Wasn't done with that one, but the Rebo Road one, is a big one if it keeps moving on through there. So we'll see how it goes.
all right. And there was one last item, and I had a date, and Linda gave it to me. I just want to give you an update on the comprehensive plan. Design workshop has the most recent edits provided by the technical committee. We should have a draft document to forward to the Metro Planning Commission next week, and we're adding review and adoption of the plan to the MPC's June 21 agenda. So that's moving forward. That's all I got, unless you got some questions.
Questions, anybody?
I just want, when you were saying about the speed bumps, West Paris, when do you think possibility of West Paris getting?
Yeah, that's what when I said Madrid, I kind of meant West Paris. That's what I was thinking about when I said that West Paris doesn't make really any sense for a four-way stop because it's just one run. So we've got them ordered. We're going to we'll put one on West Paris.
Do we have a timeline on that?
When they get in, we're falling victim to what is everybody's hearing right now. Everything's on back order.
Supply chain issues.
Yeah. So
Everybody. So-
yeah, I'm hearing that for a lot of stuff right now.
Right, thank you.
The next is the review of agenda for council meeting for next week. It's in your packet. Standard approval of minutes, presentation from Noah Krebs as a county employee still,
Well,
or our employee.
He'll be ours by then.
He
so.
starts working Monday, and he's presenting on this, which is, he led that. So we'll have the person who led the bike and pedestrian plan now employed by us, and he'll give us a presentation. So we'll be doing double duty in that aspect, and I'm sorry I won't be present for that. We have our ordinances that we're gonna be going over for second reading. We have no first reading ordinances next month.
There should be one, right?
I don't have any on my,
So am I.
Isn't that,
which one are you thinking?
21, 23?
21, 23 from tonight?
The budget.
The budget, no.
That doesn't get.
No, remember, we're gonna have a special meeting, you got an email on the 15th, date right in my head, 15th?
Yeah.
For the budget. But you do need to have an ordinance on here for the court budget.
Yeah, we're still working through the
So
specifics
you're
with
right,
Charlie
you're
on
right
that
part
one.
of that. We'll be doing the court budget at the regular council meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Kevin's gonna recuse himself from that one, not have any part of that. And then the following Tuesday, because hopefully by then we'll have
We'll have a better understanding what the mill value
Well,
is.
very close to the millage. The following Tuesday, we're having a special meeting for the full budget.
What time is that?
What did we put it out as?
5:30.
5:30? There was an email sent out about that.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
ordinance 2021-11 from our public hearings not on the proposed agenda for next Wednesday.
Didn't we say that we wanted the new planning director to prepare a map showing us the stuff and then do it at that point? That's what we did last month, Kevin. We had asked the planning director, the new planning director, to come on board and show us a map of what are the 10 feet properties and that
Yes.
kind of stuff, and then have it as a second reading at that meeting. So that would probably be July, I guess, getting Noah a chance to get up to speed.
Okay.
Am I on right on this timeline? and
Yeah,
the thoughts?
we had roughed out a map, but I think, Noah will be able to give us a little more specificity as what we anticipated.
I agree with that, but also, I thought there was gonna be a county meeting, and we had requested to be there also. Am I wrong on that?
Well, I will kind of recap a discussion we had. I attended the Northern Regional,
Right?
and that came up. And an objection was raised by the mayor of Beaufort to the fact that he had concerns that why would we hold a meeting with a group that has a very special interest in this particular ordinance. It didn't seem, in his opinion, I'm just recounting what he said, he had concerns that it would have been perceived as, we're working out a deal in the back room, with a special interest group on an ordinance when, they have an opportunity to participate in the public process of providing comment via a 3-page letter, just like any other group would. So they had asked for a meeting. That was the feedback. I was there listening and watching
And he
the
had-
banter across the table.
Right. He and Councilwoman Alice were
Yeah, I think she
discussing.
took a little objection to that.
I think so.
I don't think, what she intended is she just wanted to see more of a dialogue, I guess, about it.
Okay.
So y'all, right now, I'm not aware of any meeting
Okay.
that's scheduled
That's fine.
at this point.
Yeah, we did receive 2 copies of 2 letters that were submitted to the county, but
Right.
no meeting.
That's fine.
And so that's kind of one of Noah's first tasks, is to get us a good solid map so we can bring all that back in July.
For second reading.
For second reading, because we've already passed it on first reading.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Kevin.
And Reese, what did y'all pass on, Phil? Have y'all,
We included a portion of, Phil in the FEMA update of when we adopted the flood maps and did the flood ordinance.
Okay.
There's a specific chapter in there, that changed the language a little bit, that was proposed, but it is in there in the past. Allowed, if I'm not mistaken, a couple more feet of leeway, but still a very strict guideline for what could happen.
Maybe we get a copy and see what they did.
Janet just Facebooked that they did have a meeting with the county. So, I don't know what was the result of that meeting, but I'm sure we'll find out.
I thought we had asked to have a seat at the table, but that's neither here nor there.
Yep. We'll let it, yep. So then we've got appointments. We've got the design review board. We've got one reappointment, excuse me, I said appointments, but it's a reappointment. David Beasley, and he has said, it's good. Richard Beasley.
And he said here.
Yes.
Now, if you've got David Beasley, a former governor, I'd be
Right,
impressed.
right. I don't know where that one came from.
He's busy feeding people right now, so you'll have to leave him alone.
I believe that would be.
Yeah. Important dates. Important dates is the next item on tonight's agenda. It's also the next item on next week's agenda.
Tomorrow, we have at 5 o'clock, the 2021 legislative reception at the
that's
Tavern
right.
Walk.
Correct. But one of the other things that I think we're missing out on, and I realized it this weekend, we have a lot of community events that happen in the town of Port Royal. We had a run, I think it was the Water Festival run this past weekend.
That's right.
That occurred. They must be permitting somehow through us, and I think we need to figure out a way to get them on the calendar and let people know that they're happening on the weekends and what's going on, and kind of get that out there, figure that out. They've got to be getting permits from us in some way, right?
And something happened at Naval Hospital, Naval Heritage Park, as you were.
Yeah,
That
they
was the
had
Beaufort High
cars and
School
stuff.
alumni car and bike scholarship fundraiser on Saturday. They had
See,
a
I
nice
saw a
turnout.
float,
We
or
should have known that.
Yeah,
blow
I'd
ups.
really like to try to get those kind of other community events recognized
We're,
in some way.
we're,
Some of those, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe we can get them added to our calendar as well. Let's see if we can
Yeah, I'll
look.
start looking at events, like he said in the newsletter, I had an event section, but now the events are ramping back up.
Yeah.
I can go through
And I think it's good, like I said, a run through town. Obviously, it'd be good for people to know with the
Heritage
cars
Park
and the
was
travel.
very
And
active
thank you
Saturday.
for your
Yes.
officers, chiefs in the back of the room. They did a great job. I happened to be down there, and they did a wonderful job, as they always do, helping event out.
Very good.
And we appreciate, the school resource officer was out there too. Everybody was getting it done.
When they come sign special contract, we're
work for us. I'll make sure Mr. Willis knows. I'll forward an email to him and he can give it to maybe Sean.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing. Any other important dates? Hearing nothing.
Special meeting, what's Blue Channel? Mark, okay, Mark, I got you.
You got it?
Yep.
Oh, I think
4th of
he-
So
July.
it's the blue channel marker, yeah.
Yeah, what, do we have any time on that, 4th of July, or just at this point, kind of?
The port is starting their event at 1 o'clock. HPRF and the Boy Scouts will be selling food, beginning at 12.
Good.
So that's one of those things we just want to start getting out there and letting everybody know that Port Royal's open for the 4th of July in a big way. I know Chief's probably saying, really? But, it's gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of people down here.
Yeah.
We've done it before.
We'll do it again.
Do it again.
We'll
And there
do
will
it
be
again.
people there that you've never seen from places I am not aware of.
That's okay, that's okay. Make sure our businesses know that it's gonna be a
Yeah.
busy day so that they can get open and start that anyway. Well, that's it. That's the last item on our agenda. And if everybody's good, we'll adjourn. So, that's good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.